Welcome back. Now it's time to create the dining chairs to go with this table that we just created in the previous video. So let's go back to our reference image here. And this is what we have. We have ourselves 6 chairs here, so we're going to do the same thing with our dining table. I don't see why not. I'll create 6 chairs as well. You'll notice that the chairs are fairly detailed. We have these different types of unique forms here. If I look at one of these chairs, we have this sort of curved backrest. And we have these different parts that connect together. And then we have the seat cushion itself. Okay, so we have plenty of stuff here to model with this dining chair. So I'm going to separate this over multiple videos. Now, another thing you'll probably notice with the dining chairs here is that we have 2 different types of dining chairs. We have this dining chair here, which has no armrests. And then we have this dining chair over here, which does have armrests. You notice that the chairs with the armrests are the ones at the ends of the table, so it's basically for, I guess, for the heads of the household, while the other chairs are just for all the lower class family members, I guess you could say. That's kind of mean, but you know what I'm saying. And so basically, we have to create those 2 variations of chairs: chairs with armrests and chairs without. So you could say the chairs with the armrest for yourself, for whoever the head of the household is. And then you could save these chairs with no armrest for, say, your mother-in-law or something like that. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is look at this, and measurements are extremely important. Just like with the table, I did the same thing, took measuring tape, I looked at some chairs, I measured them in real life, and I came up with, based on the image and based on what I found in real life using measuring tape, I found some measurements that I'm going to use initially for the base of my chair. So the way I'm going to start this is the base of the chair, this little object right here where the cushion sits on top of, where the legs connect to, and where the backrest connects to. I'm going to say that's the foundation of the chair. That's the base of the chair. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to build all the parts of the chair based off of that piece of geometry. So let's go ahead and let's get started with that. I'll just come out here. And again, I'm going to start off with a box and just roughly create a box here. I'm going to come in here and change these parameters, the length, the width, and the height, which translates to thickness of the base of the chair. So these are the measurements that I came up with when I was figuring this stuff out. For the length, I'm going to go with 1 foot, 2 inches. For the width, I'm not going to go with 3 feet. Instead, I'm going to go with about 1 foot, not 6 inches, I'll go with 5 inches, 1 foot 5. For the height, or the thickness of the base of the chair, I'm going to go with just a couple of inches. So 2 inches will work out just fine. And that's what we have. Okay? So there we go. So there's the base geometry for our chair. So I'll just bring it into our house here. And again, just like with the table, the pivot point is automatically on the lower surface here of the base of the chair, which is perfect because I can just go to the transform type-in tool and I can come in here and put a Z transform. So how high do I want to bring this base of the chair up? Well, again, based on measurements that I took, I came up with a good average or good height here for this object. And I'm going to go with 1 foot 7 inches. Close that. So that's about how high the base of the chair is going to be. So this base of the chair, again, is, if I zoom in here, is this object here in the picture. The cushion sits on top of it, the legs of the chair connect to it, and the backrest also connects to it. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and let's get started. Now that I have this object, I can convert it to an editable poly. I'm going to go to polygon mode. I'm going to select this bottom polygon here. I'm going to hold down shift while I scale, and I'm going to create myself the starting geometry. I'm going to create it into a new object. And that's going to be the starting geometry for the leg of my chair. It's going to be the front legs. So I'll select that object, change its color. Maybe I'll go for green. Okay. And I'm going to take this object now. And I need to alter its pivot point. Let me just take it and snap it to the corner of the chair right there. Alright. Make sure you have vertex snapping turned on. So check your grid and snap settings. Make sure vertex snapping is turned on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to affect the pivot point of this guy. I'm going to move that pivot point to this top outside corner right there of the leg. What's going to be the leg of the chair. All right. I'm going to select the polygon there and I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to take snapping off. Okay. I'm going to take the object itself, and my pivot point is way up there. Let me adjust that pivot point again. Snap it there. I'm going to take the object itself and snap it to the corner of the base of the chair. Alright, so it's going to be right there. Take snaps off. I'm going to take the polygon here, and I'm going to scale it just a bit so that the edges stick out past the base of the chair. I'm doing that on purpose. Alright? And editor, I made a mistake. Edit that out of the video. Edit that out of the video. I'm going to undo. Go back to here. Alright, start again in 3, 2, 1. What I actually want to do is take and snap this green object for the leg and snap it to that top corner right there of the base of the chair. Alright? That's actually where I want to place it. Now, with the polygon selected, go ahead and scale it up a little bit so that the edges go just past the geometry of the base of the chair. And you'll see why later, why that's important. I'll go ahead and hit Shift and E to extrude this out, and I'm going to extrude this. And I'm going to open up the transform type into, I'm going to take this all the way to the floor, so 0 in the Z-axis. So it's going to go to the floor right there. Next thing I'm going to do is, I'm going to make the leg a little bit thinner. So I'm going to take the inside polygon, I'm going to move it in a little bit like this. I want it to be a little bit thinner. Okay, so something like that's good. And maybe I'll take this polygon in the front, and maybe I'll pull that out just a little bit more. Something, yeah, I guess that's fine. Now I'm just being too picky. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to edge mode, select this edge, then I'm going to select the ring of edges. I'm going to go to the connect options, make sure my segments is set to 1. I want no pinch, no slide. Hit OK. And then I'm going to manually move up that connection there of edges, that segment, up to about here. So it's just below the pink geometry you see here from the base of the chair. You'll see later why that's important. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this edge here. I'm going to select that ring and make another connection right down the middle. I'm not going to move it. And then I'm going to take the bottom polygon here of the chair, and I'm going to move it forward a bit, and I'm going to scale it. I'm going to scale it in the x-axis like so. So I'm doing this to it right here, so I'm making it thinner. Because if we look at the image, you notice that the chair, the leg of the chair, is has this distance here, or this size, and then as it comes down to the bottom, it tapers, meaning that it scales down and becomes thinner and thinner as it gets to the bottom. You can clearly see that right here in this part of the image. So we need to imitate that, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So I'll move that a little bit forward like that. Okay. Now I'm going to take this loop of edges that's right here, and I'm going to go to my quad menu. I'm going to go to the chamfer tools, chamfer options, and I'm going to move the chamfer amount so that the chamfer reaches almost to the top and the bottom of the leg of the chair. And I'm going to add more segments, and the more segments I add, the curvier this is going to look, the smoother it's going to look. So I'm going to go for about 12 segments. It's going to look pretty good. And I'm going to hit OK. Alright, that's pretty good right there. If I render this out real quick, you can see we have that nice type of shape, just like we have in the picture, in the image. So you can see how that little trick right there allowed us to do that geometry pretty easily and quickly. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the leg for the moment. Now let's see what else we need to work on. We need to work on the backrest of the chair. Okay, so how are we going to create the backrest? Well, before I create the backrest, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little bit of different geometry here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to edge mode on the pink geometry here, the base of the chair. I'm going to select this edge here. I'm going to select the ring, and then I'm going to make a connection here. Make sure that's just one segment. Hit OK. And then we're going to move the connection over here. And we're going to move it so that it comes just after the leg of the chair right there. So it's just past it. Then I'm going to select this edge here, select the ring again. I'm going to make another connection right in the middle. Alright? And if I look at this, you notice that this is just a big square. Alright? Now if I look at the image, we don't have a top-down view of the base of the chair, but I don't know why I'm inclined, looking at the image, I'm inclined to believe that the back of the foundation of the chair tapers in. In other words, it becomes more narrow toward the back than it is at the front. At least that's what I think. And even if that's not true, this square shape doesn't look very good. It doesn't look very interesting or nice. So to add more detail to this and make it look more, I don't know, finished, you could say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back polygon and I'm going to scale it down a little bit like so. So it has this sort of kind of subtle kind of tapered look to it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'm going to select this edge on the top, this edge on the bottom, as well as those right there that we don't need. Hit backspace to get rid of it. Just backspace, not control and backspace. Select those two edges that we have left right there. Then we're going to go to the chamfer options and take the chamfer amount and move it so it's almost to the beginning and the end of the geometry. And then just add as many segments as you like to give it a nice, smooth, curved shape. I'm going to go with about 8 segments. Looks good. Hit OK. And if we look at this from the top down, it has this nice, sort of subtle curved shape that tapers toward the back. And that, believe it or not, makes a huge difference. A nice, subtle modeling detail. All right? So now we need to create the backrest. And if I look at the image again, here's the backrest. It's this piece of geometry that's in the back here that kind of curves. All right, looks pretty interesting. It's pretty unique. Let's look at some of the details it has. First of all, it has a curved bent shape, almost like a bow from a bow and arrow. All right. The other thing you notice is that if we look at the part that connects to the base of the chair, it looks like it's about 1 inch thick, something like that. It has some thickness here. And then as it goes up, the thickness starts to taper off, and it gets more narrow and narrow and narrow until it gets to the top where it gets pretty thin. All right. And at the bottom, it's the same thing. It gets more and more narrow until it gets a little bit thinner at the bottom right there. You also notice in the center, we have this sort of open hole. And if we look at this, this chair here, you can see that it's an actual hole that's punched through the geometry. You also notice, based on this picture, that the top and the bottom don't have a hole. It's actually connected with a white piece of geometry. I guess it's a different material on the chair in the picture. All right, we won't worry about that. But what's important is to note that there's a hole that goes from here to here, and then there's a strip of geometry that unites the right and the left sides of this backrest together on the top and on the bottom. So we have to imitate that. All right. So with that said, now we know basically what we have to do. So I'm going to take this polygon that's back here. I'm going to go to geometry. I'm going to detach it. Now the question is, should I detach this as an element or a separate object? And if it's a separate object, should it be a clone? I'm going to do it as a separate object here, and I'm going to make it a clone so it's its own object. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to select that new object. I'm going to change its color. I'll go with something like a tan or a pale yellow type color over here, which will look just fine. Alright. And let's go ahead and let's go to edge mode. I'm going to select the bottom edge right there. I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to extrude it down. I'm going to open up the transform typing tool, and I'm going to take that to 0 in the z-axis to take that to the floor. I'm going to take the top edge, hold down Shift, extrude that up. All right. Now, how high should I take it up? Well, that's a good question. We really don't know. We don't have an exact measurement for that. If we look at the image, there's really no way of knowing the exact measurement from here to the top. So we're going to have to basically eyeball it and go with our best visual judgment as 3D modelers, okay? So I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, okay, from the foundation here of the chair, from the base of the chair to the bottom, the backrest, if we were to take that distance and just visually with our eyes, take that same distance from here, it would be to about right here. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the height of this from the base of the chair to the top of the backrest is going to be about 1.5 times the length of the base of the chair to the bottom of the backrest. Okay, so I'm looking at the backrest here. I'm looking from right here to down to the floor, and based on that, I'm going to take this top edge and I'm going to move it from here to here until it's about 1.5 times the height, and it's past the table, as you can see here. So I'm going to go with about a height of about this much. Looks pretty good, and I can always adjust the height later, so it doesn't matter. Alright, so I'm going to go with about this much. I think looks pretty good. Now, next thing I'm going to do is give this some thickness, because right now it's just like a piece of paper. You can see it's like a sheet. It's 2D. So how can I give this thickness quickly? Well, we can use a modifier for that. If we go up to modifiers, editor, edit that video, I made a mistake, start again, 3, 2, 1. If I go over here to the modifier list, and I go down here, I'll find a modifier called shell, okay? I'm going to click on that, and that's automatically going to give this object some thickness. You can see the shell modifier up here, and the parameters that we have. If we look at this, we have an inner amount, which is set at 0 by default. If I use that, it basically pushes the backrest into the base of the chair, which is not what I want. What I want is the outer amount, which is going to give us the thickness that I want right here. Now, it's set to 1 inch here by default for me, and I'm going to say that 1 inch is good because based on the images, I'm going to guess and say it's about 1 inch. And 1 inch looks good in 3ds Max, so I'm going to keep it at 1 inch. Okay? I don't need to make any more adjustments to the shell modifier, so I'm going to collapse that. You'll notice, this is very important, it collapses it to an editable mesh. We're not working with editable meshes, they're no good. So I'm going to go ahead and convert this to an editable poly so we can keep using our graphite modeling tools with our object here that we're modeling. Okay, so here's the backrest. It has some thickness. What do we have to do now? Well, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'm going to select these edges right here, or this edge. I'm going to select its ring, and now I'm going to go to connect, and I'm going to make one connection in the middle and hit OK. I'm going to select this ring of edges on the bottom, connect that as well, okay? And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this top polygon and this bottom polygon right here. And I'm going to scale them in because remember that the top and bottom, they taper in and become more narrow. Okay, so something like that. And then I'm going to pull them back like this. Okay? To give it that sort of curved flare type of shape that it has, that it's supposed to have. Next thing I'm going to do is go to edge mode. I'm going to select this edge here, and I'm going to select its loop. And with that loop of edges selected, I'm going to go to the chamfer tool options, and I'm going to chamfer this until the chamfered edges are almost at the top and almost at the bottom, something like that. And then I'm just going to add segments. And as I add more segments, you'll notice that the chair becomes smoother. If I render this out, you'll see it has that nice smooth shape to it, that nice curved shape to it, just like in our reference image. Awesome. Okay, so we're getting there. I'll hit OK. I'm going to select this edge here and select its loop as well. And I'm going to use the chamfer tool and do the same thing. I'm going to lower the chamfer amount. Again, the general rule of thumb is to take the chamfered edges until they're almost at the top and bottom. And we don't need 12 segments here, that's too many. I think I'm going to go with 10. Just to keep the geometry a little bit lighter. Okay, so, but you can use as many as you want. I'm going to keep it more manageable and keep it at about 10 segments. Looks pretty good. If I render it out, I got that nice curved shape right there that I was going after. So I'll hit OK. Okay, so the next thing to do is, well, we have a couple of things here to do. Let's look at our image. Okay, so we have this curved shape here. We've got that down. We've also tapered the top and the bottom, so they're thinner at the top and bottom. We have the thickness. The next thing I'm probably going to do is give it some flare. Now, if we look at this chair here, we have a very nice view of it. You'll notice that the top is pretty wide. It's flared out. See that? And as it comes down toward the base of the chair, it gets narrow. And then toward the bottom, it flares back out again. Let's create that effect in 3ds Max. So how can we do that pretty easily? We can do that using a modifier. So let's make sure this object is selected. Go up to modifiers. Let's go to parametric deformers, or freeform deformers actually is where we want to go. And let's go with the 4x4x4. Okay. Hit 1 so that you can select the control points of the modifier here. If I expand its modifier to modifier stack, you can see it's got control points, lattice, set volume. I want to go with the control points here. So I'm going to select all those top control points and all the bottom control points, and I'm just going to scale them in the Y, scale them out. So you want to get this type of shape. See that? I'm exaggerating, of course, so that you can see what I'm talking about. So let's scale it back in. And we want to go with a very nice subtle amount. Something like this looks pretty good. Okay. Now in the middle, what we want to do is basically contract that area a little bit. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select these control points down here, scale those in, so we get something like that. Looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to say I'm happy with that. Looks pretty nice. Next thing I'm going to do is just collapse the modifier stack, and it's an editable poly. Make sure that it is. Okay, so we've got that flare. Let's go back to our reference image. So we've got the flare down. The next thing we want to do is punch in that hole that goes in the middle right there. So how are we going to do that? Well, it's not going to be too hard. Let's go to edge mode, select that edge. Let's select the ring of edges all the way through, all the way around. And we're going to go to connect, and we're going to connect this initially one time, but what we really want to do is connect it 2 times. And then we're going to use the pinch here to pinch this in. Now the amount that we're going to pinch it in, we'll look at the image here. If you look at the thickness here, it's probably about 1 inch, something like that. So we're just going to use our visual judgment here. And I'm going to pinch this to about maybe a value of -75. Looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks fine. I'll hit OK and say that I'm happy with that. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to punch the hole in through that geometry. So how am I going to do that? Well, that's actually pretty easy. Let's go to polygon mode. And let's select this polygon, control select the next polygon above it. We'll go to modify selection, and we'll click on loop to select that entire loop. All right, I'm going to go to see-through mode, Alt-X to do that quickly. And this is where we want to punch the hole. But if we look at our reference image, we can see that there's geometry that connects the bottom and the top of those 2 sides together. So we don't need a hole right there. We just need a hole right here down the middle. Alright, so we need to leave some polygons right there and leave some polygons right there. So how do we do that? Very easy. I'm going to go up here and turn on window crossing. I'm going to hold down Alt and I'm going to deselect about these 3 bottom polygons on both sides, the front and the back. I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to do the same thing. About right there. Looks pretty good. So the front and the back. And once I have once I do that, I'll have the front and back polygon selected that I want to punch a hole through. So at this point, it's very easy. All we do is go up to Graphite Modeling Tools, go to the Polygons menu, and just hit Bridge. And when you do that, it's going to go ahead and punch a hole right through the model. So you can see here, if I render that out, I have a very nice hole, just like the picture, right through the middle of the backrest of the chair. Excellent. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I need to add a little bit more detail. If I look at the chair from the top here, I can see it. The chair is the backrest of the chair is perfectly flat, as you can see right there, which doesn't look bad. But I like the way it looks in the picture. If I zoom in here in the picture, you can see that it doesn't go flat straight. It has a bit of an angle. So this goes to an angle here, and then that goes to an angle there. So let's actually reproduce that here in our in 3ds Max. So I'll go to vertex mode, make sure ignore backfacing is turned off. And what you want to do is select all the vertices that go down the middle of the backrest of the chair. Alright? All of them. And what we're going to do is simply take them and move them back a little bit, something like that, to give that a bit of an angle. And you can see here, we have that nice angle just like in the picture. See that? How it angles right there? If we look at the picture, we have a similar thing going on right there. You can clearly see it right there and right there. Okay? So I minimize that picture. Alright, now that we got that done, we're almost done here with the backrest of the chair. Actually, no, I would say that we are done with the backrest of the chair. It's completely finished right there. Okay, awesome. So let's go back here and let's see what other kinds of changes we can do here. Next thing I'm going to do is, you'll notice that we have a gap here, triangular gap here with the back of this object. Let me take the backrest, put it to see-through mode. I'm going to select the pink geometry, the base of the chair. I'm going to go to edge mode and select the top and bottom edges right there. And I'm going to connect that one time straight down the middle. And that new edge that I have, let me turn off see-through mode for that. I'm going to take that new edge that I created, I'm just going to push it back. And I'm not going to push it into the backrest. I'm going to take it until it's just outside of it or about to touch it, something like that. So it looks a little more natural and a little bit more believable, as you can see. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to take this guy here, the foundation here, the base of the chair. I'm going to take the bottom polygon. I'm going to use the inset tool to inset it a bit, something like this. Okay, and I'm going to extrude that in like so, just to add a little bit more detail. I know that we don't see that in the picture, but I know for a fact that chairs usually look like this on the bottom, so I'm just going to do that just for added detail right there. Alright, just to make that look more finished and professional. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty much done right there. Alright, so the next thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to take this guy here, the leg, and I'm going to attach it to this geometry. So I'm going to select the foundation here, the base of the chair, and I'm going to go to attach, and I'm going to attach the leg to it. Okay. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to exit isolation mode. I'm going to select the backrest and the chair itself, as well as the house geometry, and isolate selection. Basically, I didn't like the table. The table was in my way. It was really starting to annoy me. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this guy here, this chair, and I'm going to symmetrize it so we can have both halves completed for us automatically. So the way I'm going to do that's pretty easy. The pivot point's really important. We can see the pivot point's already in the middle of the base of the chair, which is perfect. So I'll just go up to modifiers, go to mesh editing. I'm going to pick up a symmetry modifier. I'm going to symmetrize this in the Y. Okay, so it's something like this. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to say that I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and collapse the modifier stack there, make sure it's editable poly, which it is in my case. And there we go. Okay. Now we do have some open geometry right here, which is no good. So I'm going to go to border mode. I'm going to select that border there and this border here from the legs of the chair. I'm going to go ahead and cap those. And I'm going to try to select those polygons that are right there for the chair. You can see that they're clipping right there with the polygon that's on the top of the base of the chair. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nudge this up a little bit, like so. Perfect, to get rid of that problem. So now it really looks like this is made up of multiple parts: the base of the chair, the backrest, and the legs, which is pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm happy with this at the moment, and I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. In the next video, we're going to continue working on the chair and try to finish it off. We still have some more work to go. We still have to build a cushion, which is going to take some work, and we still have to build two variations of the chairs. If we look at the image here, we have a chair with no armrests, which we've basically already created, but we have a chair with armrests, which we still haven't created. So we'll do that in the next video.